In this photo, we're going to look at colorizing black and white photos. Now, I'm going to show two ways of doing this. One way is using the new filters inside Adobe Photoshop 2021. And the other way is when those new filters don't appear to work. So this photo was supplied by Angela Rogers of Pinner Camera Club in a competition earlier this year. So let's have a look and see how this goes inside Photoshop. So I've already opened this up in here, and if we go to the filter menu, we have this new option, neural filters, and this uses AI to colorize an image. So it's still under beta, so if it worked perfectly it would be quite a surprise, but it doesn't yet. So here we are on the Colourize filter. If you don't have it, then what you'll find is you'll have a blue download button. You just click on that and download it. I've already downloaded this, so I don't need to do that. Well, let's just switch this on and see what happens. So there we go. This has colorized the image, and has it done a good job? I don't know. The problem is the skin tones. I'm not sure that this lady has these skin tones. If you look at her arms and then look at her feet, they're just two very, very different skin tones. The skin tone in her face is similar to the arms, but I'm really not that convinced about it, if I'm honest. Now, I just cancelled that. If you wanted to do this manually, well, the process is quite simple if painstaking. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to use the quick selection tool, which is up here, and I'm just going to select the skin tones. So in this case I'm just going to select the feet. We've obviously got too much of it, so let's get rid of this, and we'll add that back in again because I didn't mean to take that out. And we'll get rid of this bit in here. Let's just zoom in. So there's a few areas that we just need to touch up. Let's make my brush a little smaller and just fix these up. So I'm going to do this somewhat crudely. You would obviously want to spend a bit more time on it than I'm going to. Oops, that's too much. You can see, this is actually it's a simple process in principle, but it gets quite fiddly. So let's just add that bit in there. And then we'll just remove this. So you just want to make sure you get the skin tones and not the fabric of this lady's clothing. Now obviously I'm just using the quick selection tool. You would probably want to use something like the polygon tool to add to this selection. Let's just do that. Just undo those, redo that. So you can see that this does take a little while just to get through here. So let's do this one again. That's better. Back into the quick selection tool. Just get rid of that bit of fabric. Get rid of this bit in here. Get rid of that. Get rid of this bit in here. So, what we're going to do when we finish this is we're going to put on here a solid colour layer, and then for that we will choose a skin tone that looks appropriate for this person. Now the Colourize filter inside Photoshop, this new one, isn't, although it's a beta and it's not perfect, it's not that bad really, but you do need to give some consideration to what you're trying to achieve. So let's add a new solid colour onto this. Let's get some colours in here. So you want to choose something which looks like a reasonable skin tone here. I'm going to choose something like that. I know it looks a bit orange, but the secret to make this work is to change the blend mode, and we can change the blend mode to overlay, soft light, or colour. I think soft light gives me a good starting point, but it still looks a little bit wrong, so we'll just pull down back on here and just try to get a better feel for the colour. And then we can go ahead and we can repeat this. So let's do the face. In fact, let's make sure we select the background first. We'll just select the face. The neck. So, you know, this is really just a process of picking areas out, and let's just zoom in. And just making sure that we get all the areas that we need to get. Now this, like I say, it's not technically difficult, but it is time consuming, because you know you need to be picking out all of these things that really shouldn't have the colour, so things like the hair and so forth. Okay, let's zoom out, and again we'll put a new solid colour layer on here. And we'll change the blend mode. Now that looks definitely wrong, but we can always go in and amend this. So, ooh, don't like that. And it's a question of just going around trying to find what looks to be a reasonable colour. Now, okay, I've done her face and her arms and her feet, different colours, but you get the idea. And in fact, this is one that I prepared earlier, which I think looks pretty reasonable. And so what we've got in here is, if we switch this layer, this grouping off, so what I've done is I've just basically selected everything in here and coloured it. So let me go down to the base layer, which is the background layer. And then we've got her skin, which looks like, whoops. Bit fingers and thumbs today. So we've got her skin, which looks like that, and then I selected her trousers and gave them a pale yellow. I've no idea whether her trousers really were pale yellow, but it seemed to fit. I gave her a lilac top, again that just seems to fit, and it's just a question of going through here and selecting different parts of the image, and then just using the selection tools that you've got with the lasso selection tool, the polygon lasso tool, magnetic, and the quick selection tools to select different parts of the body, and using a solid colour layer we can go through and just colorize that black and white photo. Now there's a lot of layers in this, as you can see. Have I got some of these layers right? Almost certainly not. I've no idea what colours they should be. But it gives, it gives you the idea of how you would go about colorizing a black and white photo. It's not technically difficult, but it is time consuming. So let's look at another image. So we've got this image here. This is the colour image from Steve Cohen, again of Pinner Camera Club. So what I've done is I've converted that to black and white, and let's fire this one off into Photoshop. let's do with Lightroom adjustments because I want it black and white over there. And back in Photoshop, let's just close these down because I don't want these. So here we are in Photoshop, and let's just go to Filter, Neural Filters. And again, it's a beta, and we'll switch this one on. And there we go. Has it done a good job? In the main, I'd say it's not that bad. Obviously, we've got this huge section in here, which is black and white. So if we say OK to this, what this has done is created me another layer, and we can put some other adjustments on it. So I'm going to run some luminosity masks on here, and we'll see how we can get on trying to find a mask which just selects that white area. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at this white area in here. So I think probably that one is the best one. So I'm just going to control click on that, which selects it. And we'll put on here another solid color layer. And we will just try and mask this. Oh, not mask it, we'll put a colour in there. Now again, we'll change the blend mode. That's not great, but you get the idea. Now we've got a region up here which I don't want, so we'll just grab the mask, and with a black brush we just paint that out on the mask. Incidentally, to get to the mask, it's just Alt and you just Alt click on it on the PC, or Option click on the Mac. And because this has its own layer, we can play around with this and just try and get a better match for what we think that should look like. Now I'm doing this quite quickly. You would obviously want to spend more time with this, but you get the idea. So this is done. We've used the Colourize neural filter, which, as I say, is still in beta. When you use this filter, actually any of these, whoops, go down into here. When you use any of these beta filters, you've got an option down here to say, are you satisfied with the results, yes or no. If you're not satisfied with the results, please say no and send it back to Adobe, and then they can try and do some work to actually fix this filter up. So, you know, it's not only portraits that you can do with this. You can do, you know, landscapes and wildlife as well. Let's look at yet another example, shall we? So back into Lightroom, and this is a photo done by Dowd. And so let's fire this one off into Photoshop. Edit with Lightroom adjustments. Excuse me. And let's have a look at this one. And again, we will go into the neural filter and we'll choose Colourize again. And there's the colorized version. Now, a couple of things that really come to mind to me on this one is clearly the eyes haven't been coloured, and two, this really looks as though it's got a bit of a sepia tone to it rather than a flesh coloured tone. It looks quite desaturated, in fact. So I'm going to cancel that, and what I've done is, in the same one that I did with the lady earlier, I've colorized this manually. So let's edit this one in Photoshop. And I've done that one wrong because I meant to open the original. Let's try that one again. And so all we've got on here are, this time it's 3 layers. So we have one for the skin tones, which I think looks much more plausible than the version that came out of Photoshop. One for the eyes, so we've just coloured the eyes. I've no idea whether this gentleman has blue eyes or not, but he has now. And then I've done the jumper, and I've made the jumper a reddish tone. I think that looks a bit more plausible to me, but of course feel free to disagree. And then the final one I want to do is, this is a picture I took last year of Deluxy when we were up in Scotland together. And I've turned this one black and white, and this one I don't think works at all. So if we go into filter, newer filters, and Colourize, it looks quite desaturated to me, and certainly this area, the path, and certainly the lower, and her Deluxy's face, her body, looks quite desaturated, almost black and white. So I don't think this really works for Deluxy. So if I wanted to colorize this photo, I would go back to doing it manually. I haven't done that because like I say, it's not a difficult exercise, it's just time consuming. And all I really want to do here is to showcase some of the new filters that we have in Photoshop with the neural filters, and show you that basically your mileage may vary. It may work quite well for your photo, it might not. Again, if we go back to this one of Michael and choose neural filters and Colourize, some people might be happy with that. Notice that it always puts it onto another layer, so you can do stuff to blend other adjustments or the base layer into this if that's what you want to do. Anyway, this is how you would colorize a black and white photo. Now, I have been quite brief on it, and that's because it's not technically difficult. To do it manually is quite time consuming. When I did this one originally of Michael in here, you know, I haven't done a very good job of selecting his whiskers, his hair. You know, if we zoom in on this, you know, we've still got some areas which are somewhat grey from the black and white photo. If you wanted to colorize this, you would certainly want to spend more time on getting the mask right, because this is all based around a mask. And so, yes, so you can see in here I don't have the mask right. I could paint in there just to try and get it a little better. So it is just going to be a time consuming process. But colorizing photos, not technically difficult, but you expect to spend quite a few hours on it.